Say hello, Jacob. Hi. Alright, so the tools to take those out are right here. I've got a couple of different ones, just a regular cat's paw, smaller one, and then the regular trim tool. So let me zoom out on that. Alright, so in order to do that, you want to hook that like so, and then you just lever it out. The center pin, you just kind of lever it out like that. Okay. Then you go underneath the whole thing and just pop it out. Okay, and then it's the same for this. Alright, so after you take the two with the center pins out, this whole bottom panel comes out. So you can kind of see that. Then what I did was I unplugged this courtesy light and just turn it and pull it out. This is a trailer light module, so forget about that. And then the whole thing just comes out. Alright, so now we're just left with these two. Right. Alright, so there it is. It's out. The bottom panel is out. So now you're ready to take off this panel here. So you can kind of see that. So I think it just snaps on. Alright, so before you take this panel off, you have to remove the escutcheon for the gas cap and the trunk release. What you have to do is you have to reach your hand up behind here and just feel around until you feel these little plastic tabs, which are right there, and then you just press down on the top two just gently enough to pop the top off, and then the bottom will follow. Do you see that? So the whole bottom will follow, and then that'll fall free like so. And that's all you needed to do. You just needed to come out so that you can get to the next step, which is removing this panel. So now I'm thinking it must just, oh yeah, see, it just snaps out. See, there's some spring clips in there. You just give it a little tug right inside here and pull backwards, just enough to get it to go. Okay, like that, so. Alright, well, that's done. Because what we're trying to get to is we got to take this cover off. That's going to be the next step. So to disconnect this connector, what you want to do, let's see that little lever right here? Right here. You basically just pull down on that and then pull out the connector. So let's see if I can do this with one hand. I doubt it. So you can kind of see right there. Just like that, and then you pull out. Alright, so that's what it looks like so far. So we got the bottom panel out, the finish panel off, the little gas and trunk escutcheon off, the connector undone. So now the next thing we want to do is take the bottom and top of the column cover off. Alright, so as you can see, that screwdriver is quite a ways in there, but you just have to put it in and feel around until you engage the head of the screw and then take them out. So this is upside down again, but so I'm going to pause it for now and pick it up after we get that off. Alright, so we got the two screws out. Now it's time to try and unsnap this, and I don't know, this is a 2002, so I guess we got to be careful. It's, well, July, what, 2018, so yeah, we don't want to break anything. Alright, so what I did was I just worked this cat paw tool in between, like here, and then just kind of levered it back and forth until I pop that free, like so. And again, if you look, you can see the clip in there. So now what I'm going to have to do is do that on the other side as well. Alright, well, we got the bottom panel off. As you can see, there's, you know, 4 little thingamajigs there. It looks like maybe that piece got broken up. There's a piece there that broke, but I think it's from the top, this top piece. But I'm having issues trying to get it out. There is the 2 screw posts that are in there. I don't know how well you can see that. Yeah, you can kind of just see them there. Yeah, you can just get a glimpse of them. Yeah, there's the other one. So, I don't know, I'm going to try maybe leaving it in place. Maybe I don't have to take that out to get the Clockspring off the column, but I guess we'll see. Maybe once I get the steering wheel off, it might give me a little more room to pull that backwards. I just don't want to break anything, so alright. Alright, so there's 2 bolts holding the airbag module in. So I think those are 8mm, but there's supposed to be 2 brown plastic caps that cover those, but I'm missing both mine, so not sure. Somebody must have had the steering wheel off once before. So anyway, I'm going to take those off next. So there's 1 on each side. So after you take those 2 bolts out, this whole thing just kind of comes forward like so. And then you've got the wiring connector there to deal with. So let's just carefully do that so we don't undo it. So we don't have the airbag go off on us. Well, we have the battery disconnected. I forgot to mention that. That was actually the very first thing you want to do. You want to disconnect the battery so this doesn't deploy. Alright, well, let's see. Alright, so to do this, normally it's up. The little thing is locked. You have to pull it down so it's unlocked. And then there's 2 tiny tabs right on the side, right in here, that you just have to pinch those. So you pinch them. Alright, so here's the connector. Here's the close-up of it. There's the tab on the one side, tab on the other. You basically are pinching, and then you pull it straight back. Pinch, and then pull it straight back off the airbag. And then the airbag connector is right there. So you're pulling it straight back. Alright. So there it is. So a quick way to test this Clockspring, if you look, there is a connector which you probably could see right here. You just got to disconnect that. There's a tab at the end of again. And you just pull it out. So then once you do that, the little spring contacts in the bottom of this will open up and it'll basically ground itself out. So then you want to put a multimeter on this one, on the 2 little tabs. And it should give us a resistance reading, or if it's open, it'll say open on the meter. So let's do that. Alright, so there's the meter. You can see it's open. I've got it switched to the ohms scale, and if you notice, if you touch the 2 prongs together, get somewhat of a resistance reading, you know, 0, whatever. So that's indicating that we've got continuity. So let's see what happens when we plug that into the top of this. Alright, so I'm going to try and show you what happens. I had to put some paper clips in there because the openings in that thing are so small. You can't get the meter probes in there. So there you go. And that's 32, 34 or whatever kilo ohms. So that's 32.25 or whatever times 1,000. So that's really high resistance. And that goes with what the code was. The trouble code was high resistance in the driver's side airbag. So that makes sense. So it's probably higher than it should be because it's starting to short out. The clock spring is probably starting to wear out. So it's, as the contacts get worn out, the resistance climbs and climbs and climbs, and that's what you get. Alright, so there I am holding, see, I'm holding that inside the connector. You can't really see it too good, but there you go. Alright, so, you know, as I move it around, you know, it climbs up and down depending on how good. It's hard to do this one-handed, so I don't know, you get an idea of what, you know, 64, look at that, see, so it's climbing even higher, so it's going toward infinite resistance basically. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is take off this horn ring. So we're going to take all 4 of these bolts. Oh, we're not going to take them out, we're just going to loosen them because you want that assembly to stay together. There's springs in between. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if I can zoom in for you here. But there's, yeah, you can just kind of catch a glimpse of them if you look just right. But anyway, and down in that corner, in each corner here where the bolt is, or the Torx headed bolt, there's a spring. So between that circuit board and this metal ring, you want that all to stay together. So we're just going to loosen those enough to take that whole thing out. Then first thing we got to do is unplug this connector. So let's do that. Alright, so the best way to get this out, you're basically pressing this down, and then what you want to do is grab a pliers like this, go up underneath just right here, that's all you got to do, and then pull it down here, because you just aren't going to be able to do that with your fingers. So again, you know, press the middle, press that locking tab down with your fingers, go up underneath here, and you can kind of see that, and then just pull it straight out. Alright, so before you take the whole horn ring off, you want to disconnect each of these little steering wheel control connectors. So there's one there, and then one here. So as soon as I figure out how to do that, I'll bring you back. Alright, so there's the back. Again, it's just you just push that with your finger and then pull out. And that's all there is to it. Pretty easy. This is one of the easier ones, actually. Alright, so let me do the other side, and then we'll have that out, and then we can take the horn ring out. Alright, so you want to be careful when you're taking this out. So you put your ratchet on these, and just keep backing them out until you can lift that whole assembly off. You don't want to take the whole Torx headed bolt out, and this is why. Because there's the springs that I was telling you about. So again, they're on all 4 corners. Right there. So you notice, see how they're all sticking out, or they're still in the back of the circuit board there? That's what you want. So you just want to keep backing them out little by little until you can lift that whole assembly out. Take that whole thing out, just as one piece, and that's the way you want to do it. So we'll put that down here by the airbag, and we're good. So now the next thing you want to do is take off that center bolt, and that's a Torx. So what I did was I used this just to get a good zip on it, because again, easier to do with a power tool than trying to do it by hand. So this is a T50. I get it latched in the screw and just give her a quick couple zips and it comes right off. Alright, then I gotta go get a steering wheel puller to take that wheel off because believe me, it's on there pretty tight. Alright, well, we went to AutoZone and the guy at the counter was pretty helpful. We got this, which is basically your standard 3-jaw puller. So we got to convert that to 2. He also gave me this valve spring compressing tool, but I don't know. I'm just kind of hesitant to try this. I don't think there's going to be enough force on that to pull the wheel off. So let's refrain from that. So what I'm going to do is take this tool apart. So basically we're going to take one of these out, take the other one out, and then you see how you've basically got 2 at a 30-degree angle and one, you know, right across from the other one. Well, that's what you want to do. So doing this with one hand is kind of tough. So I'll put that in place and then I'll bring it back. Alright, so there you go. 2-jaw puller. So now we're going to put that on there and hopefully pull this thing off. Alright, so one problem in using this thing, I don't know if you can see it, but so we're barely on the spline shaft of the steering column and the bolts all the way bottomed out. So this current setup is not going to help us. So what we need to do is put a distance nut or a bushing in between there, and I just happen to have a couple things right here. So you could use a couple of, I don't know, smaller nuts, probably 5/16 or maybe a 3/8, I'm not sure, but I just happen to have these laying around. It's a bushing, solid steel bushing, and then a steel distance nut. So let's try the bushing first, because again, we don't need much. Alright, so when you got it all done, you know, with the bushing in there, now you can see we have some room to play with there. So just get this thing as square as you can and get the wires out of the way, like so. And then we'll put the wrench on it. I'm not sure what size that is, but I'll get that hooked up and bring it back. Alright, so it's a 5/8. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, 5/8. So you just put it on here like so, and then you just tighten. So I'm going to do that. Alright, so after you tighten it a few times, whatever, it'll pop. And then basically it comes free. So that was just my little bushing. So now we got to snake these wires back through that hole, and then we can take the wheel off. So let's try and do that. Alright, so success, there it is. So there's the 2 wires, there's the wheel. So we'll put that over here, and now we're almost ready to deal with this clock spring. So now we should be able to take this top cover off. Again, I didn't want to take this top dash bezel off, this thing here, and like I said, I'm feeling one of the tabs on this is broken, so I'm going to try and take that off now so that I can get to whatever fasteners or tabs or whatever hold this on. Alright, so there it is. So looking at the new piece, we see that we have there's 4 tabs. So one there, one there, one there, 3 tabs, I'm sorry, just 3. So, and then there's the box, There's the two wires that come through the column. Right there. So we'll just pop those 3 tabs and pull that thing forward. I'm not going to take this cover off. Yeah, it's just not gonna, I don't think it's gonna help me any. But you can see inside there, you know, if you look real well, yeah, you can kind of see it now. There's the two screw towers that hold this thing in. You just can't lift it up high enough without this other dash bezel getting in the way, and I don't want to break anything, so I'm just going to leave it. I think I should be able to get I'm going to be able to get my finger back there and just unlock that tab to pull this up. Again, there's only 3 of them, so I'm going to do that first. And then there's tabs underneath here to unlock it. And you can see one there. And then you can see the other. Up underneath there. So I'll unlock those 4, take that out, the box thing here, this control box or whatever that is, and then the 3 tabs for that, and the whole thing should come out. So now one thing to notice is this lock, and it even says, you know, warning, refer to service manual before fitting. So I think you're supposed to leave that in until right before you're going to put the steering wheel on. So I'm going to go check the service manual or look at all data or something like that to figure out what they may say about that. But I think that's just a lock to prevent this thing from turning in shipment. And then another thing too, get the Ford part. Don't even mess around with anything aftermarket. It's not worth it. As you can see, this is a genuine Ford part. I don't know where I got this, on eBay or someplace. I don't know. But my brother-in-law's a Ford mechanic. He said the same thing. Don't use anything aftermarket because it's just not the same. The quality's not as good. It's just not the same. Not as good. All right. All right. So looking at that, if you look, you can see, just put the screwdriver back behind here and pry up a little bit. That'll unlock these tabs enough so that you can get them out. Like so. I'm not, like I said, I'm not taking that top cover off. It's just not worth it, and I don't think you need to. Then you've got the one underneath here, or on this side I should say. So there it is. And you'll see the square part of it there lines up with the square part of the steering wheel shaft. So you basically just want to get that free. Okay, and then you worry about the wires underneath here. So let me change lighting and all that stuff, and I'll bring you back. Oh, and as far as the tabs underneath, I think you can kind of see. You see them unlocked. So I just did the same thing with the screwdriver on those. I just put the screwdriver in and just tilted it back ever so slightly so they wouldn't break, and then that releases that whole box. Alright, so let me switch lighting positions here and all that, and we'll bring it back. Alright, so to pull that off, just pull it back. You know, you can see this, the straight flat part of the top there. And that comes off like so. Then you've got wires right up underneath here. Just twist them a little bit. Pull them down. Okay. And it looks like we've got, I don't know what we've got. something going through there. Yeah, that might be. I'll have to look at that. I'll have to look at that a little closer. I don't know if we need to disconnect that or not. Alright. Yeah, we might do that up here actually. I'm gonna look at the old one. Let me look at the old one. Anyway, the module is free, but we have some plugs back here that we've got to disconnect. So, alright, so all I'm doing now is just disconnecting these connectors. So I've got one here. So again, I just put my fingernail in the middle of it and then just carefully slide it back. Okay, well they have these zip ties, so I'm going to have to cut these zip ties. I have the same problem up here too. And then I disconnected this one as well. This one was up here, if you remember. Like that, I just squeezed it and took it out. Alright, so I have to cut those two zip ties, and then I can pull those connectors out, and then I should be able to take the whole thing out. So let's do that. I'll cut the zip ties and bring you back. Alright, so after cutting the zip tie, that whole thing falls down. I just had to cut the one. So that's what you're looking at. So now you can pull the box forward. And then you're looking at 3 connectors. And you can see them all right there. So again, kind of more of the same. You're going to have to pinch tabs while unlocking tabs and all that to take them out. And it looks like there's 3 of them. So let me get those 3 disconnected, and then we'll be able to take this thing out. Alright, so there you can get a better idea, a better view of these 3. I just kind of slid it out sideways and let the wires kind of, again, you don't want to put too much strain on these because a lot of them are really little wires, so it's probably easy to pull them out or damage them. You just don't want to do that because it's just going to cause a lot of grief, so try not to do that. So yeah, there's the middle locking tabs, and then this one looks like it's got one on the side. So my big fat fingers, it's hard for me to get them in there to press them down enough to get, plus all these electrical connectors, I don't know what it is, but they're so greasy and it's hard to get a good grip on them. So I don't know, we'll see. I'll try maybe with the pliers or whatever, but I gotta get those 3 out before I can pull that old thing out of there. So alright, let's zoom out a little bit. There's the clock spring on the floor. Alright, so there they are. Yes, the pliers is your friend. If you use it, it'll be a lot easier. So there's the old one. There's the new one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip the new one in back into place, connect up the 3 connectors to the box, and I'm just going to start reversing everything. So there it is. So far, so good. Alright, well, let me get set up and I'll bring you back. Alright, so there it is. There's the new one getting into place there. See the clock spring down there. So now what we'll do is we'll put the box back into position, and then we'll put that into position and connect our connectors that we are disconnected from the old one, which is right there, and get that all back into place and situated. I'm going to wipe that off first because it looks pretty dusty. So wipe that off first, and then we'll put everything kind of back into place. Alright, so there's everything back into position, and everything's connected as far as we can go. Like I said, I left the lock in. One thing to note, I want to point out right here, this little locking tab. So when you're putting this thing back into place, so it's up underneath the car like so. So it slides in, and then you just have to find that hole in the aluminum plate right here. So you mate that pin to the hole, and then these clips right here, all 4 of them, will snap in nicely. So there, and there's another pin there too. So once you get those 2 pins into place, that whole thing will just kind of fall into place. And like I said, the first thing I did was connect the connectors, slide it back in, line up those pins, and then it snaps in, just like so. Then you line up the flat on the top with the flat on the clock spring, slide that into place, connect up your connectors there, and the white one there. And that's where we're at. So now we're ready to put the steering wheel on. But like I said, I got to figure out what's going on with this lock. I don't know what happens if we pull that locking piece of plastic out, which is this here. Does this whole thing suddenly spin around or what? And that's what we probably want to be cognizant of, because we don't want to lose our position with that. It's probably, and again, I didn't snap this in yet either, so again, it's just sitting, it's just floating right now. I gotta snap it into place, but make sure everything's clocked correctly, positioned correctly. So there we are, and then we'll get to put the wheel on, and I don't know, just start putting everything back in the reverse order of what we just did. So all right, let me figure that out, and we'll bring you back. Alright, so there's the zip tie we cut off, and we cut it off from right there. So I'm just putting everything back the way the factory had it. So there it is in place. You can see the little bridge up there, and then it wraps around the cable and just secures it. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason why they did that, so let's just do it the way they did it. Put it back together the right way. So, alright, there's that. And then, I don't know if you can see, but this wire would then go up into here. Just like so. So we're going to cut off this excess, just like that. And always cut your zip ties off square, straight, because if you're ever underneath the dash or fooling around with something, it's very easy to get cut by the little zip tie edge. And if they're not cut off straight, if they're cut off at an angle, it's almost like a razor knife, and it could really cut you bad. So something to be aware of when you're dealing with zip ties. Alright, so there's that. Got that snapped back into place. Now we just have to figure out what this what that locking tab business is, and then we'll be ready to put the wheel back on. Alright, so there's the wheel with the wires back through again. Those are the new ones. I talked to my brother-in-law. He said obviously you want to have your steering wheel centered before you do any of this stuff. You don't want to have it turned in any direction because the clock spring will break if you try to put it in. So this thing is basically just there to lock it in the center position. So now that we have it in the center position, or we had it in the center position all along, we're ready to take that out. Because again, I think that's just there to keep it locked so that it doesn't spin around in shipping or whatever and get out of position. So with that, I think all you got to do is lift up here. Yep. And you just pull it out like so. Again, got your 4 tabs, 4 holes, So take that out. Now I'm just going to line up the flat of the wheel with the flat on the column. And you can see that there. There. So I'm going to push this thing on as good as I can, and then I'll put the bolt in, we'll torque it down, and so it sucks the wheel back down onto the spline shaft, and then I don't know, we'll put the horn ring back in, and then with the airbag, and that should do it for the wheel portion of this thing. Then we'll go back underneath and put everything back underneath, put it back in underneath. So alright, well let me get to doing that, and then I'll bring you back. So there it is. So far so good. I put the bolt back in, used the 3/8 butterfly impact to snug her down until she stopped, and that's good enough. I mean, that it's not going anywhere. And again, I can try torquing it a little more with the 1/2-inch drive, but I don't. This is just cast aluminum, so you can't really go nuts on it. So there, the wiring harnesses are through. So the next thing we'll do is put the horn ring back on, the horn ring assembly, and that is right here. So there we go. I'm going to get that back into place so we can connect up our connectors on that, and then down for the steering wheel controls, which are right there and right there. So one goes to the one side, the other one goes to the other side. Alright, so there it is. Horn rings back in, connectors connected. Both of these steering wheel controls are connected. So now we're just down to the airbag. Put the airbag assembly back in, connect that connector there, then put the two 8mm headed bolts back in the back side. And that'll pretty much do it for the steering wheel. Then we got to put the column cover back on and go from there. Alright, so there we go. We got the airbag back in. We've got the column covers on. Everything's snapped into place pretty well. Like I said, that one little broken piece, I'm not sure what. Like I said, it's probably not worth chasing. So these bolts are all tight on both sides, so you can see that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Phillips screws in underneath here on each side, and there they are. Alright, so we got the column cover all screwed back together. So now when you're putting this main panel, or I should say the decorative dash panel here, back into place, just some things to be aware of. So you've got a little round lineup locator pin on each side. So there's one here and then one over here. So I just kind of wanted to show that before I snap it in place. So it's right next to where that clip goes. So I'll try and yeah, there it is. So push it all the way in, it'll snap in, the clip will snap into the hole there, and that'll be it for that. Then I can put this thing in down here. So alright, so now everything's snapped into place on the top, and you can kind of see it up there, and then over here. So now the next thing I did was I just plugged in this electrical connector to the trunk and the gas door escutcheon. So now we're just ready to, I'll just make sure that's in there all the way. So now we're ready to put that in. Like that. See, it just snaps in. You want to reach around the back to remove that. Again, don't try to poke anything through the front here. It doesn't work. You got to do it from the back. Alright, so there's that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up underneath and put those clips back into place. And then we have that black panel to do. So let me get those into place. And we have our courtesy light down there we got to put into place. So let me get that all queued up and then we'll bring you back. Alright, so there's the courtesy light back into place. There's our clips that we're going to use. So these two right here with the pins hold this bottom piece in. These two go to the bottom of this decorative panel. So I'm going to put those two in first for this decorative panel. And then we'll work on getting this bottom panel back into place. Alright, well there's everything back in place so you can kind of see that. Alright, so there it is. So now we just have to plug everything in and make sure the horn works. Connect the battery up. So that's the one thing I forgot to mention when I started, which is right here. So you want to disconnect your battery just like I did. So let's connect that back up and then we'll try the horn, start the car, and make sure everything works. Alright, so let's start up and see if the horn and everything works. Turn signals, the controls for the radio, and all that stuff. We can't test the cruise control because we're not moving, but we should be able to do everything else. Alright, well that's a good sign. Alright, another good thing is the airbag light went out, which is good because it was on all the time before. Good. Alright. So let's try the radio controls. Alright. Now we can try switching stations. Looks like everything works. Alright guys, well that's how you replace your clock spring on your Lincoln. And this is a 2002, so I'm thinking the 2000 through 2003 or 4, whatever. I don't know how long these things were made for, but that's basically how you do that. So with that, I'm gonna sign off and bid everybody have fun to do. So there it is. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you like it, give it a thumbs up and leave some comments if you like. Every little bit of feedback helps, so thanks.